Hey everyone, you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture, and I am your host, Andrew Davis. And this episode is brought to you by my sponsors, Mixum Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixum is here to make it easy. From their instant quote calculator that lets you get as many quotes as you want for free to their 24-hour customer service support, Mixum is here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. And right now, you can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials. And the company has also printed so many successful Kickstarter campaigns, including this one. They're going to be printing, hopefully, I think they're going to be printing my guest's Kickstarter. And they offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK. And Mixum can print and reach your audience anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to Mixum.com. And right now, they're running a promotion where listeners on my show can drop my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of a current order to get a 5% discount on their first order. So that is mixam.com. Again, type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of your current order to receive a 5% discount on your first order. Also, I have BCW Supplies as a sponsor as well. Type in Pop Anime Comics to get 10% off your entire order. And I got this sweet metal card up on eBay. Links in the description. So go buy my metal card, guys. I need the money. So I have with me comic creator Jamaal A. Harley. So welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so I'm going to just say it before I even begin. I am sorry for being 30 minutes late. My interview before this, Hart Fisher, ran a little bit over, but I digress right there. And you got a lot going on with your Kickstarter right now, which is the Ballad of Valkyrie Sinclaire, issue 1. It's up on Kickstarter. I think you're fully funded at this point. Last time I checked, that's where you were like 99% funded. So I think you're fully funded. If you're not, we're going to try to get you funded by the end of this show. But what is your Kickstarter and the basic premise of it for those who are hearing about it for the first time and want to share it out and all that jazz?
So the Valkyrie Sinclaire is a post-apocalyptic dystopian cyberpunk thriller. The first issue starts out as basically an assassin's whole mission gets derailed when she is drugged with alien blood that blurs the lines between memories and reality. So she is trying to complete this mission while reliving past traumas in her life that seem vividly real and kind of blend in as the drug starts to kick in.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with her story, and it's also a big world. And we're going to dive into parts of that. But where did this idea even come from? Because obviously we've seen Cyberpunk 2077, which I enjoy that game. People can hate it. That's fine. I enjoy it. I bought the soundtrack, both soundtracks. So I actually loved the game and I had a blast. Jackie died. I cried. Shh, don't tell anybody. But what is this like to really introduce the post-apocalyptic world trope and the cyberpunk, but it's also different because we got aliens in play and even just building out this entire idea because it's a nice twist in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean it's really inspired by first the premise is like some of the backstory is there's a team of superheroes and they lost and the world got jacked up. That was seen in kind of Battlestar Galactica. That was seen in a couple different shows that escape me right now, but like I want to do my own twist with that. And then so it starts off with the main character Valkyrie and how she fits into that world. We'll see as the series goes on. But just the rise of it didn't start out cyberpunk, but with the new Blade Runner and Cyberpunk 2077 and stuff like that. And I was just like, this really fits. And I'm also a huge fan of synthwave and retrowave music. So that, played a big part of me like, yeah, let's throw in this aesthetic because I haven't done it before. And it just really worked. So I just ran with it.
Yeah, and to even go into the whole story, because obviously there's a lot of history in your book. And there is, the superhero Generation 1 superhero team got their asses whooped. I think it's a safe assumption here. And they lost against these aliens. The aliens, before they could, I guess, enslave humanity or kill them all, had a crisis in their own civil war. And now they left Earth alone. And there's all this technology on Earth that is meant for Generation 1 and Generation 2, and has also altered humanity indefinitely after they lost, but they're still alive. So what was that like, really building out that world? Because that's a big preface to the entire story.
Yeah, that world building is one of my favorite things to do, and just get in the minds of the aliens, and also the past team, the new team. I often see, like, I always thought, like, movies, that invasion movies, what happens after, like, what do they leave behind? I think the latest Independence Day actually touched on that, and I was like, I thought that was really cool. But this is an idea I've had for quite a long time. Like, I got into music and I was doing music a lot, but I always had these ideas to start comic books, and I just started doing that back in 2019. So I've had a lot of these ideas for about 15 years. But now I'm putting, in it into action.
Yeah, because it's really interesting because we don't get stories, the idea where usually the aliens invade, there's a resistance, and we get that story a lot. And you never really get the story where the aliens won. It's kind of nice to see that, but then the aliens have a bigger problem that's going on. And so they leave, and they leave all their stuff. And now Earth isn't free from the aliens because they can come back at any time. But it creates a whole interesting thing because you lost, but you're not dead, and you sort of won.
Yeah.
Where you lost the war, but you're still alive, and the threat of the war is out there. And that's such an interesting concept. And before we even get into what the issue is about, that alone is a whole comic by itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I find it fascinating. And like, this is what intrigues me about your book. This
Yeah.
is the part that intrigues me, is the preface to the entire thing. And that's what I'm so interested in.
Yeah. Yeah. And the main antagonist of the story is like the moral center of the superhero team. He's like, your Captain America, your Superman type of guy, and just like really by the book. But those alien invasion really breaks him, and like also losing really breaks him, and the fear that it's not over, they can come back, and he just turns into a polar opposite and a completely different person. And so I'm really looking forward to introducing that character in book 2. They don't make an appearance in book 1, but their presence is felt in book 1.
Because it also raises a whole really, really interesting economy that's going on. And obviously, issue 1, it really deals with Valkyrie Sinclaire. I can't speak today. So correct how I'm supposed to pronounce it, if you will.
No worries. Valkyrie Sinclaire.
Thank you. It's been a long day, everybody. But it deals with her, but it also deals with this idea, and in the background, that Generation 2 and their superhero team, it doesn't think the fight's over, and they also want revenge. And now there's a whole blurred line between justice and what is revenge, and eliminating your threat, and also having the opportunity to do it as well. Because the idea is that the war, at least on the surface, is over because the aliens have left, but the threat is still out there, and you take out your enemy. And is it really revenge? And there's all these really complicated questions that you presented in your book that are in the background as almost a side story, while Valkyrie is dealing with what's going on with her and her mission, which we're going to dive into in a second. What was that like? Because you laid a lot of seeds, man.
Yeah.
You planted a farm. Like, you seriously planted a farm.
Thank you. Thank you. It was the issue is definitely Valkyrie centered. We wanted to, like, get in her head, see who she is as a person, as a character, and how this world affects her, and how the alien invasion affects her. There are definitely the older team members are littered throughout the first book. So you kind of see how it affects them, and it pretty much affects them all pretty badly. Nobody's just like, really has a positive outlook. Book 2 is where we start meeting more of the new members, and you kind of start seeing those differences of opinions and outlooks on how to handle the situation.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to throw that because that's a big part of this world. And then
Yeah.
obviously we're going to dive into Valkyrie because I don't want to ruin too much. And I'm just planting seeds here for everybody who's going to listen to this and see this and then see this in 6 months from now. I'm just planting some seeds for everybody so that when
Yeah.
we're on issue 2 and 3 and you're on issues 2 and 3, you know, it's the idea that there's a lot going on. But let's actually do dive into Valkyrie a little bit because there's a lot of shit going on with her.
Mhm.
And obviously, she's a government assassin, and these people are superheroes. They have alien technology. They have been exposed to alien powers, for lack of a better word. And I don't know the full extent of her superpowers per se, but it's this idea that um, what is this like that heroes are working for the government and they're sort of assassinating people, and well, something goes wary where this alien technology can very well and very much is used against these people, and she's sort of thrown and injected with alien blood, and it's fucking up her mission in a lot of ways. And even kind of with that concept, because we see drugs, but I don't think I've ever seen like blood fucking up somebody's mission. And then it's also pretty damn powerful hallucinogen, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. Uh, we definitely go deep in like how the drug works as she experiences it. Um, the government itself is they think that they're doing what's best to protect humanity, which hurts a lot of people. But they think as long as
Lesser
we
food,
kind of, huh? Yeah,
lesser
yeah,
of two evils, right?
right. They're more focused on survival, not thriving. So that does hurt a lot of people in this world. You do see a lot of power imbalances, and Valkyrie is very much caught up in that power imbalance.
Yeah, and also this drug sort of triggers something very interesting. And there's a reason why I bring up the alien war because now Valkyrie is going through a lot of past human trauma, and she's experiencing a whole bunch of humanity and what has happened, and not just her memories, but others, and what has happened with the aliens, and even the creation of humanity, and all these horrible events and traumatic events that have occurred throughout human history. And now she has to deal with that. So what was that like? Because this also shows a lot of what's happened with the war and the invasion and how humanity has gotten to this point. And we really get to dive into that. And you also get to see how somebody can deal with that and what it does to them. And also how they deal with that problem. And it really is a psychological element to this book as well, beyond just the action. And it also provides a lot of answers. And again, really, really nicely tied because we're getting parts of the back history of how the fuck we got Earth got
Yeah,
into this shit.
yeah. That we're more focusing, I guess, like how first issue more focusing on Valkyrie's intake of it, and her way to deal with it is kind of put up a wall or a shell. And what these memories do is pretty much start to break that down, if not destroy it. And so we're going to see a lot of the aftermath and her having to cope with find new ways of coping with trauma, because once she takes this drug, or this drug is given to her. So yeah, and it's just like, yeah, there's a lot of world building. I am doing my best not to spoil anything because I am really good at that. So I'm trying
Oh,
to
well,
be.
I'm not trying to force you to spoil anything. That's not what we're
Oh, you
doing
don't
here.
have to. I'll just give it up freely. I have to check myself.
Because well, one of the things that I think is really cool about this, and this is what I like about it, is that we're getting a lot of different elements coming at us in issue 1.
Mm,
And so we clearly have gotten Gen 1 and Gen 2 superheroes is in the background, and even how you deal with this. We got a threat that is dealing with another problem, but may or may not come back. The new threat may or may not come back. Because if you're in an alien civil war and the aliens that conquered Earth lose, well, that's a bigger problem too. And then you're also dealing with the fact that so this technology and humanity doesn't exactly understand that technology, even if they are on generation two. And then you now have an assassin who is not betraying her government, but is compromised and has to work through it while in the field. And this is where this story gets super interesting because legitimately there's 50 ways this thing can go.
Yeah.
And that's what's cool about this. And it's also dealing with mental health and real dangers of this technology that, in a lot of ways, probably benefited humanity and is actually giving humanity a chance to fight against a real threat. But it also can do something what it's doing to Valkyrie, which is fuck up her mind. And it's so good, dude. It's enough that like this is like anime complications of like 100 episode series, right? Like that's what it is, and that's why I'm like, man, I got to interview you because you hit something that it's 50 ways it can go. So what is that like to really even build this out? Because now you've built out a world to play in. I feel sorry for going on, by the way, and then you've built a bunch of complicated situations, and we haven't even got into Generation 2's heroes. But just named Valkyrie, this is a massively complicated situation.
Definitely. Yeah, and pretty much the drug itself is, just kind of a way for people on Earth to avoid trauma. It's like the way the drug works is you can just relive whatever memory you want to, your happiest memory. If you just want to stay there, you can. If a loved one that has died, you can literally talk to them in that memory and just relive that as long as you're taking the drug. So a lot of people check out of life and just use the drug. So it's also very valuable in that creates this whole underworld based around, obtaining those chemicals in the alien blood.
And even like it's almost not to downplay PTSD per se, but it's also Earth is coping with a loss because if you got through a war, even though you lost the war, but you won the war at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's not the word starts with a P. I can't think where the war is. The war was won, but it was such a cost that it was a loss. It's not necessarily
Pyrrhic victory. Pyrrhic victory, something like that.
Yes, it's something like that. That might even be the word. It's just slipping my mind, but it's almost like that. They're in a situation because clearly Earth is fucked up and ravaged from this war. Yet they have technology that is so advanced. There's so much going on. Like it's such like a yin and yang play.
Yeah. It's and even one of my favorite things about the story and the advertisement is just the shattered moon in it, and it's just like, what happened to the moon? Why does it look like that? And that's something I can't wait to show.
Whoa. I will say one thing is that if you actually did blow up the moon, Sailor Moon would be pretty pissed. There's the cartoon where Piccolo blows up the moon in Dragon Ball Z to stop Gohan from transforming, and then there's a picture of Sailor Moon chasing Piccolo. And it's brilliant. I'm right now in the middle of Dragon Ball, so everybody's gonna have to for the next like 3 months suffer of me making all these Dragon Ball references. I'm gonna apologize in advance publicly.
No worries.
Hey, it just came on Crunchyroll, guys. I'm sorry. I'm on episode 11 of Dragon Ball. So it's so good. It's so good. So I'm just letting everybody know that Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super GT, you're going to be getting that for the next 8 months or so. But yeah, no, because I really think it's cool. And even to sort of back up, because I don't want to ruin too much of what's going on in this story, because you're going to give it up. And that's the problem. So we're going to stop people. And then we're going to make sure that people actually buy your book. But one of the things that I also thought was super cool about this is that you went a cyberpunk and you introduced sort of a cyberpunk post-apocalyptic world. And I think cyberpunk and post-apocalyptical stuff are sort of cousins in a lot of ways, and they work really well together. But what was this like? Because it is really popular right now. And I think it's rescinded a little bit. Yeah, and the popularity definitely helped with Cyberpunk 2077. It was on a rise. The game had reached critical mass, but I think Cyberpunk is still very popular.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't know what Cyberpunk was until the game came out. So, but I like it. I think it's
Yeah.
cool. And so, what was this like really sort of capitalizing and building on that? Because it's here to stay for a few more years in a very popular, respected way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like I just love the aesthetic. I just think it's cool. I you know, used to rave a lot, so I like neon lights. So it's just like in the music, I like EDM. I just like that futuristic feel, and cybernetics, and just different technology, and just different ways to imagine how technology will affect humans, could affect humans, and metaphors that those different technologies, you can hide a lot of metaphors, or hide a lot of meaning in the technology. And I just love that aspect of cyberpunk, and not just how it looks, but just sci-fi, the way it always just has like little hidden social commentary here and there throughout it. It may not be, it's subtle, some can be subtle, some can be in your face. It's just up to the creator.
So to even talk about this, because I haven't written a comic yet. I want to at some point. I just got a lot of stuff going on. I'm gonna do it.
Good.
I'm just not. I feel at the moment I got a lot of stuff on my plate, and I don't have the tools to do it at the moment. But it's a goal for this year to write something. I have an idea. It's gonna be fun. It's not cyberpunk, but what is that like for you though? Because obviously you just said it, cyberpunk has a lot of metaphors. I played Cyberpunk 2077. I can see certain metaphors in that game about life and making choices and also choosing. And there's like 15 different endings in Cyberpunk 2077 that you can. I think there's three main endings, and you have a lot of choice in that game. And so, what is that like for you? That genre really does lend itself to that, because I would imagine to some degree it helps to write the story, because writing this in a western might be a lot different, because there's certain things you can't do in a western that you can do in a cyberpunk. So what is that like, really understanding the genre and also knowing that, hey, in cyberpunk you could hide something very, very blatantly that's very obvious that a reader can pick up.
Yeah. It's for me, it's a lot of fun. I really really enjoy it. Sometimes you like giving different characters different philosophies, and sometimes trying to mirror their powers, or something about the world or around them that mirrors their philosophy. That type of stuff is fun for me, and I really enjoy it. And one of my favorite writing tools is literally staring at the ceiling and trying to work stuff out in my head before I sit at my laptop. Staring at the ceiling is my biggest tool in writing. And
Yeah. Oh, please continue.
yeah, no, like, yeah, like, that I just, sometimes I'm racking my brain, it's not working, and then I just have an aha moment, and I run to my laptop and type it out. So I dig it.
And so to even go further into this, because one of the things that I read a lot of comics. I have a Comixology subscription. I pick up a lot of indie books. A lot of people send me, a free digital copy of their book before I do an interview. And one of the things that is very, very helpful, and what I find is that as a comic reader, sometimes I'm on the ball, but sometimes I need things spelled out blatantly for me. And I understand with cyberpunk, there's also that idea, and certain, things in a western, you can do something that is blatant in a western that makes it easier, because I hate to say this and it's going to sound messed up when people hear it, but sometimes people in comics are just lazy readers, and making something so obvious is very helpful because it takes pressure off to advance a story. And that's something, even some writers are lazy. Like sometimes I want to know that the character loves another character, and I don't really care. You could tell me they love them, and then you could show it to me too, because sometimes in life it's just easier to advance a story. And I'm a big anime guy, so what is that like? Because I think cyberpunk in a lot of ways does do that, especially about choice in life and having issues, and also being in a war, for instance, and suffering loss. Sometimes a cyberpunk can express that blatantly, very easy. And I would imagine as a writer, it helps to advance the story quicker.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely certain things that I want to be blatant, and there's I
Cyberpunk can make it obvious in a lot of ways. There's certain traits that can make it very obvious.
yeah, like I kind of feel like I like doing it probably like 70-30. 70% is blatantly obvious, and then 30% you might have to read it a second time, a third time, or sorry, 30% you might have to read it a second time, a third time to be like, oh, that okay. you know, that's what I like, because I really enjoy that, and like I really enjoy series where I have to watch something like 2 and 3 times, and each time I'm like, oh, what?
And the reason why I ask this is that because sometimes, look, sometimes I want to take a comic, I just want to read the comic, and I
Right.
don't want to have to overly think it.
Mhm.
And I don't want to have to go through it a first, second, third time, because a lot of times I'll read a comic, and then I'm a comic collector, so I'll read it. I'm very gentle, and then I put it away, and I'll look at it again.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. And even on a digital, like a lot of times, if you send me a physical, I want a digital too, because I'm probably not going to open up the physical beyond taking a picture for Instagram and then moving forward. And so
Yeah.
my whole thing is that I'm at this stage where I just want the story, and I want it sort of not spoon fed to me, but I want it to be very obvious because I read a lot of comics. And I'm
Yeah.
looking for fun stories. I'm looking for also ideas and something that challenges my thought process a bit. But I'm also looking to be entertained outside of mainstream because, well, mainstream is not exactly working well right now in comics. Out of the probably 1,500 comics they have published every single month, there's probably about 50 that are good.
Mm.
And that's me being generous. On Kickstarter, there's probably, I think there's like 350 comics, give or take, every single
Yeah.
month. There's probably about 200 that are really good.
Nice. Yeah. I guess I have my own theory about like mainstream
Oh,
comics.
please
Oh man.
share.
Yeah, I just
Handle
because
yourself, please.
I grew up with like like I guess when I was a kid, older comic book heads saying like, oh, the 70s and the 80s were the greatest period of comic books, and I was growing up on the 90s and the 2000s comics, and they would like be like, oh, it's not, you're missing out, that's not as good, and then flash forward, I get older, and the 2010s happen, and 2020s happen, and now I'm that guy. So I think everybody kind of has their era, and um, so like I personally don't try to hate on anything that's coming out. It's just not my era. Like I had my era, and it's also like these characters, now they die and they come back, and it's just like
So to even talk about that, so this is my whole thing. I am a big Teen Titans fan, so I actually went back. So I came into comics when I came into graphic novels when I was 11. So I'm 29. So I came in graphic novels, Teen Titans by Jeff Johns, and then I ran that entire arc all the way up, and that was some good Teen Titans stuff. And I thoroughly enjoyed the Teen Titans. And then I went back to the 80s with Mark Wolfman and George Perez. And so I went through that entire run, and that is the greatest Teen Titans run because like the death of Jericho and all that stuff. I mean, that doesn't compete with the story. Doesn't compete. The art we could be talking about nothing against George Perez or anything like that, but the art talent has just gotten massively better collectively in art in the last 50 years.
yeah,
And I don't think anybody's gonna just the sheer talent of art. The 70s cannot beat 2020
I
in
agree.
art. Just on what can be done. It colors alone. There are colors that didn't exist in the 70s
Yeah,
that exist in 2020. Okay, and then when we get, I'll prove my point right here. This color didn't exist in the 70s of that purple. Okay,
yeah,
we're going to talk about that cover, I promise. But I also get to the point where I'm like, look, you are killing off Superman, and you kill him off again, and you kill him off again, and now it's getting old.
Mhm.
Okay, it's also getting to the point where how many times can the Batman put the Joker in prison and he escapes? I don't have a problem with characters going gay. I don't have a problem with characters becoming women per se. But where I have a problem is that if you actually, like, female Thor was written well, but if you turn Spider-Man into a woman and then it's not written well or it doesn't make sense, that's where I have a problem. Where it's not that you turn the character into a female, it's that you wrote it shitty.
Yeah.
And that's my issue. And I'm not trying to shit on Marvel. I'm like, look, tell me a Captain America story. Like, Fear itself was great. Captain America, Bucky's Captain America. And then Bucky gets killed, and Steve Rogers on security has to take back the mantle. Like, that's a cool story to me. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like because that makes sense because now you have a reason to become Captain America where made Steve Rogers retire, and that's my whole issue with comics is that it's not linear and they're doing things and then they realize that it's a disaster and they're doing it for all the wrong reasons. If you
Yeah.
want to make like Jane Foster is an amazing Thor. That story made a lot of sense because Thor wasn't dead; he just disappeared.
Yeah, I it's been a while since I've read comic books, but it's just I guess I'm just in a place where you for me like Batman, Superman, Wolverine, whatever. Like I just I've read it for so long. I don't think there's a story that you can tell that's going to make me interested for me. And the reason I do love the movies is because you're basically retelling old stories in a different medium, and that's why I gravitate towards the movies and love the movies. It's just like I don't know. Then there's just like you said, like there might be a story that I just like, that doesn't feel like that character to me, or that doesn't feel like the character that I grew up on. This person writing it may feel that this is a natural progression of that character, and I mean they got the job and I didn't, so like, it's like I can't really.
So, let me ask you a question on this. Do you feel because this is something that I obviously speak to a lot of people, and there's a bunch of debates going on. And look, I enjoy certain Batman stories. Like I enjoy Tom King's run on Batman. Do I think it's better than Scott Snyder's? No, I don't. I think Scott actually hit the first 12 issues of Scott Snyder's run is the second best Batman run in the last 30 years.
Well,
The first is Chuck Dixon on Nightfall, because Nightfall is the entire Nightfall thing is almost perfect.
yeah,
But one of the things is that do you feel that, and this is going to relate back to your book in Indy, is that they've already exhausted 99% of the stories that you can tell in it, and they're out of ideas. And why people are coming to Indy is because at least with Indy, there's certain tropes in your book that have been done already, but then you add a twist and
yeah,
you add cyberpunk into it, and then you add a whole different thing, and you also add a whole different art style and a bunch of new artists. And well, it's the house is painted fresh and the house is in a different shape.
yeah.
And there's certain things that are familiar, but there's things that are different. And you feel like that's why like people are saying, hey, look, I'm not anti DC, I'm not anti Marvel. It's just that this has been done over and over and over again. And if you made Batman wear a yellow suit and he had a yellow cow, I'd be more interested, for instance, type of thing.
Yeah, like I don't. Yeah, because you just start seeing like at least I've seen that Marvel and DC are trading storylines. It's like you had the Superman battle for or the battle for the mantle, then there's a Batman battle for the cowl. Then I think there's a Wolverine battle for who's going to be the new Wolverine or something like that. And there's other storylines that are escaping me right now that I've seen DC do that Marvel's now doing, and vice versa. And if that's what they want to do, cool. That just doesn't interest me. But maybe there's some kid who didn't see the Superman or Batman battle for the mantle, and this is their first battle for the mantle, and it's like I don't want to take that away. I don't want to take that away from anybody. Um,
And do you feel though that at this point though that a lot of people who have seen this are like, look, we've seen this already, and even people who haven't seen it, they're like, this is kind of we know how it's going to end. So this is why people are sort of flocking to indie. And even a
Yeah.
lot of indie creators are saying, look, I'm getting sick of DC and Marvel on that run. I mean, I don't pick up a lot of DC and Marvel books. I used to be a big DC reader. Now I'll read on Comixology digitally because I have a subscription, and I'll go through like 18 issues of Batman in a weekend. And I enjoy it, but I'm not paying for it. I'm not having it in my collection. But do you feel like that's why it shifted, and even why people are also saying, look, I don't want to write for DC or Marvel because it's not going to be fun, for lack of a better word, or we're not going to do something significant. And I'm curious how you feel about that because, again, I'm not in that circumstance yet because I haven't written anything. And so I'm curious because every writer and every creator has a different position.
Yeah, I understand that. Like I said, I kind of feel like my era is over, and it's like, to me, a lot of these, like, I love these characters, but if you put, say, hey, we're gonna give you Batman or Wolverine, we're gonna give you X amount of money, and we want you to do whatever you want to do, it's like, I'd be like, to me, I wouldn't know what to do because there's a lot of new history that I like or don't like, and also it's like, I don't the best stories to me have been told. So with these characters, so it's just like, I'd rather work on new characters. Um, but if you feel you have a great idea for those characters, more power to you. I really just don't have the time to read it, and like, again, I'm also in the mind frame of like, I might rather reread something that brought me joy than take a chance and spend money on something that, like, I don't know, that either might be awesome or might frustrate me. So that's just where I'm at.
And even to bring back into your book a little bit, and one of the things is that's going on, that there's been a bunch of cyberpunk books that are popping up, that are coming out, and a variety of other stuff, and a lot of those books have similarities. Now, I'm not going to go bash other creators. Obviously, my friend Ryan Cummings has a book called Fever coming out that's a cyberpunk book, and
I think I got the first one of that.
What?
This is issue 2. I think I got issue 1 of Fever.
So I think it's a graphic novel that's coming out. I think issue 1 might have been released for free.
Okay.
And it's like 5 issues that are coming out, but he's a little bit behind. But things happen. Artists get backed up and stuff. So it's not that big of a deal. So it might be like 2 months late, which really isn't that big of a deal in reality. But Fever looks good. I mean, the art looks great, but the reason why I bring up even the retelling of all these stories is that what I'm finding in the cyberpunk world is that if somebody has a cyberpunk samurai, somebody has a cyberpunk other book, somebody has cyberpunk fever, which is Ryan's book, and all of these books are extremely similar. So, and they almost all tell a retelling of a story to some degree. So what is that like, knowing that there's like 30 cyberpunk books out there, and even that you got to make it different and you got to capture different elements and things like that, because it does get confusing. And obviously I've read a lot of cyberpunk books. When I look at them, I'm like, do I need another cyberpunk book in my collection? And so what is that like? Because it's not a retelling the same way Batman's being retold, but when there's 30, 40, 50 cyberpunk books that have come out in the last 4 years, it gets tricky because it's kind of like I want to diversify what I pick up off a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I'm asking you tough questions purposely.
You are
making you think. This is not an easy show
at all. I just have to stick to my philosophy of writing what I want to see. Like, it's a lot of my stories is, it's this but this, and or a mix of these influences that I think are really cool with the character that I think is really cool, and just finding the audience who also thinks it's really cool. And that's all I can really do is, like, whether there's 5 cyberpunk books or there's 500, I just have to do something that I think is cool, and I hope all those creators are doing something that they think is cool. And the onus is really on us to find the audience that thinks it's cool too. and that's all you can really do, in my opinion. So I'm not trying to compete with anybody. I hope we all win. I know that's not realistic, but you know,
So
uh,
let me ask you about that, because I was on a show earlier today with my friend Niobe Comics, and Tom Hutchinson from Big Dog Inc. was on that show, and a few other people, and we were talking about competition.
yeah,
And obviously, I come from a business side of things, and I buy and sell comics on eBay, and that's sort of my side hustle slash business that I run outside of this, outside of a variety of other things. And look, somebody has $100, right? And they have to figure out where they're going to throw their money at. And there's sort of a debate going on, and I'm curious how you weigh in on it, where Tom's saying, well, if somebody's coming to you and they're going to spend $40 with you, and I got a book about horses, and I'm picking a generic topic, chances are the person who's into cyberpunk and superheroes is not interested in horses or is interested in westerns, for instance. Now, they could be. And the debate was sort of saying that somebody who's interested in Brian Pulido might not be interested in Tom Hutchinson's Big Dog Inc. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so when Brian Pulido is running Lady Death, he's not directly competing with me if I'm running a Kickstarter, for instance, and you're running a Kickstarter. But also, there is that competition where, well, if somebody only has $100 and there's $20 books, they can only back 5 books. So what 5 books are they backing? So I'm curious how you view that, because I think there is not direct competition, but there's always competition. For instance, how many people are going to watch this show when there's legitimately so many podcasts, there's television, there's sports, and I'm competing for airtime. I'm not competing with the idea of airtime with radio. This is the internet, but it's that idea. So I'm curious how you view that, because it was a very interesting debate that was going on, because it was complicated between direct competition, indirect competition, or is there no competition? Because somebody who's going to back your book is not going to back a Western. And so if the person's running a Western doing $1 million and you're doing 10,000, it doesn't really, the two genres and the audience, maybe there's a 1% overlap. I mean, I'm curious because I'm not a creator in that sense. So I don't know if I'm off base. I don't know, because there was two sides. And the person was saying, well, you're in direct competition with
right.
that person. And Tom's saying you're sort of not. And then Tom's not going to mind me saying his name on this
Yeah.
one. And I'm curious how you view it, because it's a very interesting topic.
Yeah, I mean, like like you said, if they have $100, they can only buy 5 that week. Maybe 2 weeks later, when they get paid again, maybe they'll make another decision, or maybe next month. So my whole thing is, like, Kickstarter is only one aspect of selling. Like, I sell after Kickstarter. I plan to sell, however long it takes. And the thing is to try to have a story that's going to not just resonate today, but may resonate a couple years from now, and just have, what are those?
These are metal cards remnant from my Kickstarter. The
Nice.
intention of everybody who got their metal cards. It's been done, because I don't have Ben Dunn's address yet. But you were saying something about selling. The purpose is that I printed 121 of these. There's 54 of them up on eBay right now. That was the purpose, because I understand outside of Kickstarter that there's a different market, and I have an eBay store where I sell a lot of comics, and I don't sell my comics because I don't have a comic, but I produced a metal card purposely for eBay. And so that's what's remnant from my Kickstarter. And I think that that's something, because you mentioned something, sorry to interrupt, but I think a lot of people forget that if you do $5,000 on Kickstarter, you also have to understand there's eBay, there's cons, there's your comic shop, there's private sales on Facebook, there's Facebook Marketplace, there's Amazon, there's a variety of other places, Craigslist. You could do there's a bunch of apps that you could sell and meet up at, like, your police station and exchange. And
Yeah.
it sounds crazy. I've done it. I've picked up comics and gone to people's houses to pick up, like, legitimately, like $900 worth of comics. And people forget that actually happens. It's actually probably unsafe now that I think about it, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
That's an invitation to get mugged.
Yeah. Meet at Starbucks or police station, like you said.
Don't go to somebody's house.
No, don't do that.
It's probably not a good idea. Now that I think about it, it was probably not a good decision. I was fine. I didn't get attacked. Actually, it was great. But because that's something that's fascinating. I'm curious because that's a different business model. Because I do more money outside of Kickstarter. I mean, I did $855, and my sponsorships equal more than that.
Yeah, like my first Kickstarter, Who's Bad, I've made, half of what I made on Kickstarter outside of Kickstarter, like since then. So, it's not, Kickstarter is only one part of it. It's not over. So it's like, as long as you have copies, you're still in the game. So, and you can still just because, if they like your genre or whatever, there's still a potential buyer when they have the time and the money. So I'm not worried if somebody has more sales than me on Kickstarters. Just like, who knows, 3 years from now, so that it could blow. My book could blow, or their book could blow even more. So Kickstarter is just the start for me.
That's the thing that I think people forget is that this is a whole big thing with Kickstarter. Is that for me, I was booking guests and I was trying to kickstart my show, keep my show, and get my costs down lower, survive for another few years or another year. Obviously, come into podcast format. And one of the things that I figured out is that I'm booking guests through Kickstarter, and I interview a lot of people. So it became a pre-order form for me. It also helped to kickstart and lower my costs for season 3. It also got me to produce metal cards. It got me sponsors. And now I have another social media position in play, and I have a Kickstarter page. And I'm going to come back for season 4. And if people are like, hey, man, I want to support you. And, it gives me an ability to push things out. And that's something that is very cool. But again, I also have Mixem as a sponsor. I'm adding more sponsors. I'm looking for sponsors on the podcast side. And I'm going to make more fucking money outside of Kickstarter than I'm going to make on Kickstarter. Yeah. I mean, 3 sponsor runs with Mixem makes me more money than I made on my Kickstarter. The only thing that my Kickstarter does is that it's almost bonus money. If I'm to run an Indiegogo, it's bonus money. That's what it is. But it also, I'm giving something back. And it also ensures people's guest spots because I have a lot of choice. And I think that there's like 21 people who book spots, give or take. And out of the rest are my choice on my show. And that's what people don't understand. I'm rejecting people because I can. If I don't like your project, that's the whole thing about Kickstarter is that it's an insurance policy for me. And it's an insurance policy for my guests. And I have no problem openly admitting that. So, but again, I think that Kickstarter shouldn't be maybe 20% of somebody's business.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I have an online store. I'm going to local comic book shops, trying to get in there, trying to do cons. I didn't even think about Facebook Marketplace, so thank you for that. I'm definitely going to jump on that.
eBay's a big one. eBay's a big one.
So
eBay is free. You don't pay to put things up on eBay for 250 listings I think the first time you go, you get 50 free listings, and then when you reach a certain level of something, you get like another 100, and then you slowly build out. Like I could list 512 items on eBay right now, up to $27,000 without paying eBay anything. If I list a item, my 513th item every single month listed will cost me 30 cents to list.
Yeah.
It's complicated to list 512 eBay things. And if I get to the point where I'm listing a lot more, if I'm listing like 3,000 items every single month, I'm going to buy an eBay store and pay a monthly fee just so I don't get charged per thing. And I could sell up to $27,000 worth of merchandise every single month.
Okay. Digging that one.
without having to pay for an eBay store.
Yeah.
Now, eBay takes 13% off the final sale, but I don't care because I'm also not listing anything up front. Shopify takes 8% between their things and Stripe. So, but eBay is a global marketplace.
Very true. Yeah.
So
it's good to diversify and just, try to hit as many avenues as possible.
I mean, this right here, and this is my point, and this is why this is such an interesting conversation. This right here is worth $400. This is $400. This thing cost me $40 to make. No, metal cards are 85 cents if you buy 100 plus more of them. No, anybody would have found that out anyway.
Yeah.
And so this is $400 in my hand right now, and I will sell all of these in the next 2 years, no question. It could take 2 years to sell them, but I will sell all of them.
Right.
And so this is where I think it's very interesting because to me, I view Kickstarter as saying, hey, look, this is just a pre-round sale. And then I view saying, hey, the real money and the real way you make money is you should make money on your Kickstarter. If you do an issue 1 and you don't make money on your issue 1, I think you're moronic and you're an idiot. Because that's a horrible business. I mean, the people have told me that the business model is that you do issue 1 and you don't make money. You do issue 2 and you don't lose money, but you don't make money. You lose money on issue 1. Issue 2, you're losing maybe $100, and then issue 3, you're maybe making 100, and issue 4, you're maybe making 500, and then you do a trade. I think that's a horrible business model, personally.
Yeah.
I think if you're not making money on issue 1, you got to fix your business first and foremost.
Yeah.
Rule 1 is don't lose money. Rule 2 is don't lose money.
I agree that the goal is to, my goal is not to lose money. My goal is to make money. The worst case scenario, break even. What do they say? Losing's not an option. It's like, if I'm in a position where I feel I'm going to lose money, I try to think of ways to get around it. That's just, what I do, but to each their own.
No. I view, and maybe you see, I come from selling comics and I view them as equity and stock. And so this to me is stock. This is cash equivalency, and this is almost like debt security. And people don't know what debt security. Debt security is when a company essentially says, "Hey, we're going to lend you money, and you have to make debt payments to us." Yeah. And the short version of debt security for those who are interested is what winds up happening is that let's say that a company needs $50 million, but a bank doesn't want to lend them money. There are other financial institutions that will lend them that money, and then they have a debt security to those companies, and they make payments to those companies plus interest. And it's a way to finance things. So that's debt security. This to me is debt security because technically this was bought from my Kickstarter, which is a different company, to my eBay company, and this is the sales go back to my eBay, to my Kickstarter company on the cost. And that's how I function. And while not moving money crazily around, it is definitely calculated in taxes. And they have to set that up. It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
But I digress. This is a lot of people in Kickstarter do not like when I talk about this. they don't because they don't understand how to run an eBay store and all that stuff. But I think and even running a con position. Because I don't think your con table should be the same as your Kickstarter business. I don't.
Yeah. I
think it's actually a mistake.
Yeah. I haven't done a con yet, but that didn't seem like something I'd want to do.
Yeah, but we've gotten slightly out of the entire your Kickstarter. And you got Who's Bad number 0 is out there that I think is also part of this, and that's sort of dealing with the moon. But we don't have to talk about how the moon went haywire.
Apparently, I have a thing with the moon, so Yeah, no, yeah, that's also there. It's a 10 page mini comic, the prequel to Who's Bad. Um, that'll give a little bit more context to issue one as well as issue number two when that comes out in May or June. Um, so yeah, excited about that. That was fun to do as well. Um,
Yeah, we don't have to dive too much into it, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong. So, what is the deal with issue zero and this book that's coming out, which is the Ballad of Valkyrie Sinclaire, and all that, and is number zero almost like an ash can, or is it just digital, or is it an add-on? Well, what's the whole thing with that? Because that's where I'm confused on your Kickstarter. That I think
I,
is
I
interesting.
I just like to give people their money's worth. Like, Valkyrie is only 22 pages, so it's like, okay, you're getting 32 pages with this add-on. It's also, in my mind, advertising for, our other books. So like Valkyrie actually debuted in my second Kickstarter, Conquer the Galaxy or Die Trying #1. That's where Valkyrie debuted, and Conquer the Galaxy debuted in Who's Bad #1. So that's kind of like a thing I like to do for the Kickstarter. I also like, I'm getting ready to start reprinting Who's Bad #1. So those aren't going to have the mini comic. So it's kind of lets you know the first printing has a mini comic, and if you don't have the mini comic, then you don't have the first printing. So I try to think in the future that might make it worth more.
Yeah, and let's even talk about that because that's something that's fascinating, and I'm sure you've seen it. I've seen it where I don't know about you when you back in Kickstarter, but I get priced out at a certain price range on a
Mhm.
Kickstarter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I come from the world of Zenescope as a comic collector, and so
Mhm.
I will back. I got no problem spending $25 for a Zenescope book if it's varying up a 250 print run, a 150 print run, a 350 print run. It doesn't bother me that realm because I know that I can sell and I know that it retains value. I know that it appreciates in value over a year time, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Um, where I get upset is when a cover A is $25 or a cover B is $50. And I also say, where's the value in this book? And where are you protecting me as an investor? Where are you protecting me as a collector? Where are you protecting me in providing value? And that's where I get very upset. And so, what is that like saying, hey, I'm going to include a mini comic and I'm going to give more? So, somebody says, hey, I don't feel like I got gypped. I don't
Yep.
feel like this guy's trying to screw me and trying to squeeze every little last dime out of me. Because that also definitely affects me and it affects where I throw my money on projects.
Yeah, I'm definitely the same way. Like, I mean, everybody has a right to dictate the value of what they're putting out, but there's definitely been some books where I was like, oh man, I want to back this. Then I see the price, I'm just like, whoa. Especially if I've never read anything from you. That's quite the investment, and that's quite the gamble on somebody you don't know. Um, so I just look at it from that vantage point. But hey, there's people buying it, so more power to them. But yeah, for me, it's just some people's price points, like you said, and like you said, if there's a lot of them out there, and it's not gonna, like you say, collector grow in value, wherever that series or book may go. It's I also think about that thing, so I think other people think about that type of stuff too. So I agree with you.
Because what happens to me is that so I'm looking at some of these Indiegogo, and their cover A is $25, and it's like I can't justify that in my budget. And look, I think the book is cool. I think the creator is awesome. I would love to have an interview with her. But I'm like, you're pricing me out. I cannot justify in good faith saying, hey, I spent $25 for a Keith Garvey book with Zenescope that's a $2.99 print run and you are charging me $25, the same $25 for a cover A. Like I can't get behind that concept. And that's my issue is that if you print a 350 print run and you're charging me $20 on Kickstarter, I could get behind that on a psychological level and on a business level. And that's where I'm at with that. And I'm like, man, I can't back that project. I'm sorry. And I understand that I'm going to pay more on a Kickstarter. You know, if a graphic novel is normally $20, I might pay 30 for it on Kickstarter. I can be fine with that as well. Yeah. But there goes a point where I get priced out.
Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree.
So that's where I'm at, and I don't think you're really pricing me out on this. So it's interesting. So I don't think you price people out. I don't. I think that, you know, obviously you're keeping your prices and your costs effectively low. Mm-hmm. So let's actually, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. You're the guest, so please.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the idea is, you know, I want to make it as available to as many people as possible. I want, you know, I want the numbers. I want, you know, I don't want to price anybody out. I don't want to say like, oh, I would buy it, but I can't. And I think that, you know, again, it's like the more people that get it, if you like the book, you'll come back. And, you know, just, you know, and also keeping the extra stock of books on me, you know, I think that's working well for me right now. I would love to have a conversation with some of the people whose prices are high, and I'd love to get their perspective, because right now, to me, it doesn't make sense.
So I understand when you're producing a variant, for instance. If you're producing a 200 print run and your book is $20, I get that. So I was tempted to do a book, and I'm not going to get into it too much. But one of the things is that I was going to have a 200. I was going to have 4 different SKUs of 200 print runs, and I was going to charge $30 per book. There's only 200 of them, so there's 200 copies, and that's it of each SKU. And that's why I'm charging, because there is a value protection in place where it's a limited run and it's not being reprinted. So deal with it, right? And so now that's something that I think is very, very interesting. So I get that perspective. I also understand that people say, look, this is what my book cost me to produce. Or they spent a lot of money on the art and they've made a determination where their art was X, their book is X, and their break-even point is $9 a book. And so they understand that they need to charge $20 to justify their art costs, their cover costs, and all that stuff. I get it. And I completely understand it, and I don't have a problem with somebody justifying it. But I'm also like, look, there gets a point where I'm out of the market where I can't be spending $40 with shipping or $35 for a variant. Like, it's such a complicated thing. Or they feel like that artist draws and brings in real money. You know, if you're paying $1,100 to your cover artist, you know, you need to figure out how to recoup your money on that book. And that's another thing too, that just gets tricky. So I think that's part of the perspective. But
let me ask you a question. What do you feel like? How do you feel about like so many?
I know this question before you even ask it, but feel free to ask it.
So many variant covers.
Yeah. So I actually think that it's good and bad. This is what I think. I actually think that variants give choice, right, to a lot of people, but I also think that it's a curse, because depending on how much it costs you to produce a variant, it can be expensive. So if you have 14 variants and you paid $200, that's $2,800 plus printing, and so that's a lot of stock to carry. Now I buy and sell only variants, and I also buy and sell limited number variants. So I sell 350 print runs from Zenescope, 250 print runs from Zenescope. I'll sell 100 print run, a 75 print run, and those books have value, but I'm looking for limited numbers. On a lot of Kickstarters, it's how many people order a book, and I'm like, cool, that's great, but again, I have a different philosophy. I also think that people go buck fucking wild, and I also think that they create a bigger problem in the long run, where having a lot of variants does create that situation where I think that it's kind of like you now have 11 to 14 covers. Well, it diminishes the book a little bit where it's you're carrying more data as the creator, but you're also given a lot more choice, and it also makes a Kickstarter messy. Like I know people who have like 30 variants on their Kickstarters. I'm like,
Whoa.
it's a lot. It's a little too much, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't know, even as a kid in the comic book shop, I was never the kid that bought every cover. I was like, I like that one, I'm buying that one.
It's
That's
also the idea that if you go into a comic shop, different shops might like different variants,
it.
but it's also the idea that now they got to pick which ones they're going to carry, and then there's always one that's a runaway. So I'm a data guy, right? So this is what I want on my Kickstarter. I want to essentially, without having to, I want 4 covers on a campaign. And what I really want to do is I want to do the following. I want to figure out and gather data. And I want to say what covers are going to sell out. And I want all 4 covers to be perfect sellouts because this is a business, right? So if I have enough data on a particular thing, I can book 4 cover artists who will sell out 75 to 80% of every single cover on my Kickstarter, just on the cover alone. And that's what I think is the mistake. I think people don't actually have enough data on this, and they're actually not making educated decisions and saying, okay, look, this cover did A, this cover did B. I want to book a bunch of covers, and I'm going to have some winners and losers. Why the fuck do you want losers? And I approach it like a stock. I don't approach Kickstarter the same way everybody else does. When I produce a variant, that is a commodity, that is equity. And so I want my equity to move and sell and be pushed out.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in, I really like this artist and they're really good, and let me give them a shot. Oh no, we only sold 10 copies and I ordered 100. Oopsies. I don't want that. I want no. It's funny when I do it that way, but this is what puts me at odds with everybody in Kickstarter land, because I'm like, you're not using data, you're not using science. I mean, I'm a stock market guy, and I look at the market. It's not an accident that I have certain returns in the stock market. I've actually looked at companies and evaluated them and understood what was undervalued.
Mm.
So that's how I feel about it. Is that I feel like people actually don't assess it and don't actually say, look, what is this book going to do for me? How much money is this going to return to me? I'll give you an example. If I produced a comic and I didn't do the art and I printed it, and the printing was, the artist was $350 and the printing was $800 for 100 runs on it. So that's $1150, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way you calculate your book cost is that you take the print run and you divide it by the cost to print the book. That's your break-even point on the book. So it's the print run, the artist cost, and then you divide it by the number of copies you printed. That's your break-even point, which then goes into your wholesale point, which is saying, how do I wholesale this book now? So if your wholesale point is $2 and your break-even point is $2, you need to make a determination saying, I need to wholesale 50 of these.
Mm.
I need to wholesale these at $3. The book goes for $6. And the comic shop can now sell that variant for $6. And now you're not making as much money, but you're making $1 off of, you're making $50, but you paid for half the printing. And this is exactly what nobody talks about. And on all these shows, nobody ever talks about these questions, because these aren't comic questions. These are business questions.
Right.
For somebody who's never printed a comic, I understand, because obviously makes them as a sponsor, and I understand how, and I don't know how much 200 or 100, it's not $100 for $100. It's much cheaper, from my understanding. But the point is being made, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nobody ever asks me about these questions. There's a reason why I bought a bunch of these. They're 85 cents to make. It goes back to business decisions. So if I spend to order 100 metal or 120 metal cards and I spend $110, I'm looking at $1,000 in growth from that. And that's the whole thing, is that that's what people don't talk about. understanding that side of the market, producing, carrying debt and treating it like debt security or equity or stock.
I get
But
that.
I digress. It's I don't get asked it because nobody wants to talk about this, and nobody wants to talk about this because it's not a fun topic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's fun if you're making money.
But the whole thing is that people need to talk about this. People need a business education in Kickstarter.
Mm.
And what I talk about in my eBay business, and the same was applying Kickstarter, is that I actually take a distribution from my eBay business, and then I actually put it into the stock market. It's no secret. So I put it into what are known as dividend investments. So now I take profitability from one business and then I invest it, that then produces me a passive income stream. And this is the whole other thing about people with Kickstarter, is that this is why you want to make money, because you have to understand how to take a distribution from your business. Whether that distribution is $5 or 5,000, that's however, I can't predict your business position, but that's the whole problem, is that people on Kickstarter don't understand how to take a distribution. They don't know how to kick forward. So if you fund $5,000, your book costs $2,500 to produce with art and printing, you should take a distribution out of what you raise on the other side of it, and then actually maybe you kick it back into the business, or maybe you split the extra 2,500 and kick your seed money is 25. You got that back. You add to your seed money, and then you actually take your money and diversify it into the stock market, or into a savings account, or into a U.S. Treasury bond. And I'm not giving financial advice, but that's the problem also that people don't understand, because comics are fickle.
Yeah.
You could be doing well today, but you could not be doing well tomorrow.
Right.
And that's the whole thing. It drives me crazy because people actually don't know what they're doing with this, and they think they do. And look, I don't know how to run a great campaign, but I can tell you for a fact that my eBay business is working, and it produces me a fuck ton of money every year.
Nice.
But I don't make my money from my eBay business. I make my money from investing. That's a nice soliloquy for everybody who's watching and checks this out. And if you want to learn how to do that, you can hit me up. I'm more than happy to teach you. More than happy.
But I take you up on that.
More than happy to teach you. I'm not expensive. I'm like $20 an hour. So no. And I'll probably spend like 2-3 hours with somebody for $20 to talk about it, because I could talk endlessly about this, and I'll show you how to do all of this and actually make a fuck ton of money so that you're not poor. I didn't because there's a difference between being broke and poor. I right now am broke. I am not poor. Broke is temporary. Poor is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
You choose to live poorly. You could choose to live brokely. You could be worth millions of dollars and be broke.
Yeah.
Because being broke means you just don't have money. Being poor means you have nothing. Being rich means you get to say fuck you to people, and there's hardly any consequences.
Trying to get there. Trying to get there.
But anyway, we're going to actually talk about your book, because I'm probably going to back your book. Because there's a cover I want. But obviously, I like this right here. That's super dope. And then there's a bunch of rewards. So there's the digital plus, which if you just want the digital, you live in Australia, Canada, you don't want to pay for shipping, you want a lower price range, you want to test the book to see if you like it, the digital is perfect for you. The digital plus has some extra stuff in there. But then we get to the cover A, which is this, which is what made me stop, because I love this cover.
Yeah, it's done by Cesar Mora. The logo's done by Ed Lavalley. Logo. It's I told him the idea, and Caesar just nailed it. Like, I love his colors. I love his drawing style. You totally captured the hologram gun.
The gun's the nicest part of that.
Thank you. So yeah,
she looks pretty too. Because what I like about this cover is that this isn't bad girl art by no stretch of the imagination, but she looks nice in it and she looks sexy, but it's not like Zenescope bad girl art. It's not, Niobe, which is my friend Larry Higgins' book, and it's not Big Dog Inc., which is bad girl art. So it's kind of nice because she's got the fierce, sexy look, but it's not over the top, and that's what I like about it. And it's also very much captures what cyberpunk is. So that's, I believe, the cover A, and then this is the cover B, which is the Akira, homage cover, and that's cool. And I might be picking this thing up. I haven't decided which book I'm going to buy from you. So that's this right there, and this is kind of cool. So what made you want to do an Akira cover?
I just saw that GIF of all the different cartoons and different shows that did the homage, the Akira homage. So I just like, and she doesn't have the hover bike in the first issue, but she gets the hover bike later. But I just thought that'd be really cool because one of the things that the world is kind of flooded or is flooded after the alien invasion. So, and as you see, these buildings in the background is a structure called the Hereafter, which is where the affluent choose to live in this world. And so I just also like the character Sebastian is in the background. It's kind of also a little Blade Runner homage. And
so really... you can even talk about, because obviously, and I don't know how familiar you are with tribute covers and people paying respect to covers and things like that, but people really like, and then people in the comic community will collect just swimsuit covers. They will collect tribute covers of certain artists. There are people who have comic collections that all they're collecting is Spider-Man 300 covers. And anything that does a variant of that, they're going to collect of some type. And I know people who have literally 200 different type of Spider-Man 300 books. Like they have the Gwen, and they have a bunch of silk things. And there are people who will collect Akira covers. So there's been a bunch of books that have done this already, and it's been referenced. It's known as one of the classic anime movies, and it's well respected. And I love Akira.
Yeah.
I think Akira is great. I had Joshua Seth, who plays Tetsuro in Akira on my other show, and he plays Tai in Digimon. For those who don't know, so one of the things that's super cool is that I don't know if you're an Akira fan or just, hey, I just don't know what else to do here, or I want to sell some books. So I don't know the whole story behind that, but clearly, what?
It's a little bit of everything, really. It's I'm an Akira fan. It looks cool, and it's kind of one of those things where people see it and they're like, "Oh, Akira," and
because I knew instantly without even the thing about Akira, especially the bike scene. Everybody knows that scene in anime. Everybody in comics knows that scene. That's the thing. Somebody who's not an anime fan knows that cover, right? They don't know this character in the back, but the thing that everybody knows is the bike, where everybody knows that bike is Akira, and that's the whole thing. And so that's something that I think is also very important, that having something recognizable in a comic is beyond useful.
Yep. Yeah. Even all my comics have an homage cover. First, Who's Bad cover, the main cover is pretty much Andrew WK, his first album, or I don't know if it's his first album, but it's I think it's most popular album. Conquer the Galaxy or Die Trying, the variant artist, that same artist that just did the cover you just showed, they did kind of like a Star Wars homage cover. So I think it's fun, and it's taking art that really meant something to me or really influenced me and having incorporated it in something that I did. I think it's fun, and then it does so it seems to sell really well. So I'm gonna keep doing it.
And then there's this right here, which is a really cool one. So that's up front and back. And then there's this right here, which I don't know the difference between this one and this one.
So yeah, this is the full thing. So this one's just gonna be a front and back. I didn't want to do a fold out cover. I don't know. Ask Mixum. I didn't see that option if there was a fold out cover. So since I used Mixum, I didn't see a fold out cover, so I didn't go for it. But this is done by an artist named John Kutzer. I love working with him. He's a super cool guy. Definitely check out. I think his Instagram is at JD Kutzer, Kutzer is his last name. So yeah, definitely I think he's super talented. He's a pleasure to work with, and I'd hope to keep working with him for a long time.
And then there's this which is the concept art, and I think you can get it physical, you can get it digital.
Yeah, physical and digital. That's by Law 19-2000.
So obviously it's a bunch of cool stuff in there.
Yeah, thank you.
And I've seen a little bit of it. I haven't seen all of it, but I've seen a little bit of it. And if you're interested in all like how the sausage is made and everything in the world, obviously that's kind of the book. And you want the schematic a little bit, that's the sort of where things got developed and all that stuff. And then this is just some stretch goal stuff.
Yeah. So we just got the Gulshara one because we hit a 3K this morning. So we're 100% funded. So next we're on to the Valkyrie print. This is all done by the interior artist Cesar Mora. So you just get like a full color glimpse of a lot of these characters.
Yeah, and then obviously there's obviously the physical catch up for Royal Oak Comics, all the books, obviously the concept book as I stated, everything, and there's some other stuff as well in there, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and so pretty much you can get every single book, every single cover. You could get the concept art, you can get everything digital, you can get everything physical, and pretty much if you want something off this campaign, I'm pretty sure that Jamaal will hook you up. If there's something like, hey, I need to have something, I'm sure that there's something that could be worked out in all of this. I'm sure that if somebody wanted extra prints, you don't have a problem figuring out a deal on how to get that and everything in that realm. If they wanted extra books or something like that and they want to pay for it, I'm sure that there's a way how you can do that. Or if they're a retailer, because I don't know if you had a retail package up there.
I don't have a retail package up there. I am very, very generous with prints because I have a really, really ridiculously good hookup with prints. So I am very fortunate in that, and I like to share the wealth. Also, I can't wait to get to cons and start selling those. So
Kickstarter. But I'm sure that if a retailer is hearing this, sees this, like, hey, I want 10 copies for my store, I'm sure there's something that you could work out with them.
Absolutely, yeah. Hit me up, Royal Oak Comics at gmail.com. Hit me up. Also find me on Instagram, and I'm pretty good at getting back to people, even during Kickstarter season. It may be a little bit harder for me to get back to you because I'm messaging constantly, but I will get back to you.
And so obviously, and then as I was stating, if there's something you want or something you need, I'm sure Jamaal will be more than happy to work it out with you if it could be worked out and things of that nature. And, there's a million things, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, but people love original art. So I don't know if that's on the table, but, or maybe they're going to have to make you an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah, I'm open. Let's talk about it.
So obviously I wanted to show all that stuff and really, present that because I think it is important. And I think that people, need to see these books and see what's going on. I mean, I'm going to be probably shooting for that Akira book, even though it's against my better judgment. I think I'm going to be really happy with it. So it's going to be a cool book to have in my collection. But I do want to back out of Kickstarter a little bit, and I do want to talk about crowdfunding and Kickstarter in particular, because obviously Kickstarter and crowdfunding has evolved in a lot of ways. And you've been running a few of them at this point, and the COVID era has shifted things where people need to have a bigger digital footprint and things of that nature. So where do you foresee crowdfunding going and how it has evolved in the last 2-3 years? Because clearly it is not, I'll put it nicely, the genie's out of the bottle. I think in a nice way to put it, where it's not going back to the way it used to be.
Yeah. Jury's still out with me. I don't know. I'm on the fence with crowdfunding. I'm exploring other ways because my online shop is actually doing really well. So it's like, okay, if I get a big enough presence, do I even need Kickstarter? Because I can just sell directly and I don't get hit with 10%. So
something that I'm thinking about too.
Yeah. So if I could get it like that, and for anybody who has it like that, I would probably do that. But if you're just starting out and you want to I would never take away from the Kickstarter experience because you learn a lot. You definitely learn a lot, and it creates a lot of challenges that you didn't expect, and it could you know shoo you away and be like, "Nah, this isn't for me," or it could be like, "Nah, I'm gonna get over this."
So yeah, I agree on Kickstarter because obviously I had a very weird experience on Kickstarter, and unfortunately, I've learned a very complicated issue with people where some people want to support a podcast on Kickstarter. Some people say I don't want to throw you any money, and fuck you. And last year I did 172 interviews, and I literally had 38 backers on my campaign, and look, I'm at odds with certain people because I'm like, look, I'm doing interviews, guys. If you can't throw me $5, like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, and that's my attitude. I'm going to start questioning a lot of people. I say, if you couldn't throw me $5 to support my project when you're on my fucking show, like, what the fuck are we doing here? And should you really? Because I find that also I'm now vetting people. Very, very interesting. Where I'm also now having, are you a good person? Are you going to return the favor? There are people who are now asking me, who I'm like, where the fuck were you during my Kickstarter? Like, what the fuck? You want an interview? Where the fuck were you?
Mhm.
Like, and that's my problem at this point, is that I'm at this stage where I'm also saying, look, maybe I want to go corporate, and I'm actually looking for corporate sponsors. Mixum is one of them. I want to find another 2, 3, 4, 5 Mixums, and if I can pull in $2,000 every 2 months, I'm not going back on Kickstarter, because why would I want to surrender power? Like, and that's the other thing too, that's very interesting, because what is, I actually have a fuck ton of power. I think I'm only gotten like 20 entries out of Kickstarter on my campaign. I'm doing 150 minimum. The majority of my entries are my fucking choice. And
Nice.
so I'm at the stage where I have a lot of fuck you. Like, I did Hart Fisher legitimately like almost like an hour and 30 minutes ago, and he's that's a fuck you interview, meaning that I have the right to do that, and if I was beholden to Kickstarter and a variety of other sponsors, I probably would not be able to do that. I'm
Mm.
very honest about it. So I'm curious if you feel that way, or you just say, hey, I just don't want to be here with 10%. That's really the bottom line for you. Or do you want more power? Because I want complete control over my business, and I kind
Yeah.
of like it.
Yeah, like I do like having more control over my business. You know, and then sometimes I feel in the indie comic space that
Does it start with an A? Does it have an S in it?
no,
Does it have
it
an
doesn't. It doesn't. It's just like where the whole thing is like, oh well, you backed me, I backed you, and then it's like, are we getting fans, or is it just a bunch of indie creators buying each other's projects?
Let me ask you a question on this. What is your take on, you give me $1, I'll give you $1.
Mm.
So up your backer count. What is your take on that?
I personally don't like it. Like my whole thing is like, only back it if you want it. You know, if you're gonna read it, if you actually genuinely like it. Um,
I have a slightly different position on me.
yeah.
I have a position that if you've been on my show 5 fucking times, you owe me $20 on my Kickstarter.
I like I try to support as much as I can, whether it's like sharing, whether it's telling people to go
No, if
follow.
you come on my show 5 times, you owe me
Yeah,
$20 on my Kickstarter. I'm sorry. There's no discussion,
those
because
guys.
legitimately that is $4 an episode of me sharing out your thing to like 3,000 fucking views. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. There is no exchange anymore. I just gave you 5 fucking hours plus of my time,
Yeah,
15 hours of research, another 6 hours of me promoting it, $20.
yeah.
If
I very much understand your emotions. And that's why I've chosen not to care about that, because if I did care
No, no,
about
no, no,
that,
no,
I
no,
would
no.
be
It's not one
pissed.
time. When it's the fifth time. When you get to
Yeah.
that
Oh,
fifth
pissed?
level, but when no, 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 it's not the first interview. It's when you've been on my show 5 times. If you
Yeah.
don't support my Kickstarter, and there were people who did not do that who've been on my show 5 times, our friendship is over
Yeah.
because
I could see that. And it's,
it's different at that point. It's kind of like I'll give an example. If you open up a restaurant, right,
hmm
and your friend doesn't come to your restaurant on opening day,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because at that point, it's I'm not asking you to come to my restaurant every day. I'm
Yeah.
asking you to show me a little love on my business venture. When
Yeah.
we get to a stage where you've been on 5 times for free, you gotta support the fucking project, right? It's kind of like if you sent me 5 copies of your book, right? Every issue, just saying, "Hey, Andrew, I like you. You're doing great. You're sharing out my stuff. Let me send you a physical copy." At some point, I gotta back your case and say, "Dude, it's on me. I got you for the 6th issue," right? Because
Right.
it's just what you gotta do.
I agree with you 100%, but for my own sanity, I have to have no expectations. I
The way I view it is that I don't view it anymore as
mm,
me backing. So somebody throws me $1, I'll throw them $1 depending on who they are. But I'm not a big fan of it either. But I back projects to build relations
yeah,
because
that's part of it.
I understand that there's the whole thing of my issue right now is that there's 3 things why people get on my show. It's either I ask you, you pay me, or you're bringing me something to the table. If
Creating
you bring
value.
me
Yeah.
a guest, I got no problem admitting that if I've interviewed people because they know 15 other people and they brought me guests.
Mhm.
So there has to be some exchange going on with
Yeah.
this. And so I'm at the stage where I'm like, so I'll back somebody's project that I don't know because I want to build a relationship with them. I'm like, hey man, I just backed your project. It looks awesome, right? If I
Yeah.
want to interview somebody and I don't think I can get in on my merits, I'll back their Kickstarter because I want to interview them because I think that in the long run I'm building a relationship, right?
Yeah. I mean, no, I do the same thing. It's like I went to LA Comic Con and, I got a chance to like meet a lot of people that I've seen on Instagram. I may have missed their Kickstarter or whatever, but I definitely bought their stuff. Just be like to have like I'm having a conversation. Hey, I want to support you. I like what you're doing, and I love doing that stuff. Again, it's just like I've done it, and it hasn't. That didn't happen at LA Comic Con. Everybody I met there was awesome, but I have supported people's Kickstarters. I have shared and liked and really supported and crickets on their end, and I just let it go. Like I agree with you, but like
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm going to ask you another question now because this is
Mm,
relevant to it. See, this is the part where we get controversial.
uh-oh.
Is that so? Have you ever backed a Kickstarter with networking, trying to do it, and then you got crickets on your end, and the project wasn't good, and you have a real problem where it's like you want to support your friends, but their book isn't good, and this creates a whole complicated position because should you support somebody's project that is bad and then you're helping to get them funded and then they're funded and they produce the bad book and then they produce another one and then you fund them again and then it just keeps going and it's not their best writing and you're trying to network because I've had situations like that and I'm like, oof. I have a friend and he has a book and his book isn't good. It's rough. It's a rough book,
Mm.
and I couldn't back the 3rd issue, and so I'm curious how you feel about that. Where do you back a project to try to network even though it's sort of a piece of shit?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, I guess if you're my friend and we're friends, I'm gonna support you unless it's like absolutely something outrageous where like I gonna get canceled if I support you. So, but if it's just like networking and I'm not into it or it is like something crazy that's gonna get us all canceled, nah, no. It's like I'll tell you why if you really want to know. I'm a really honest person to a fault. Like I
See, I'm not as honest as you, where it's like I'm just not going to answer the question, and we're going to move on. And but like I'm having all these discussions, and I'm like, well, why do we back projects? I just did a whole roundtable on that very topic, and it is complicated because buying. I mean, one of the things about my campaign that I understand is that you bought access to me. So when somebody backs me and back my Kickstarter, you're not just getting an interview. You're buying access to me. You're buying access to my library. You're buying access to who I know, what I know, when I know it. There's certain people I know in the industry, and I know them very well, and I have access to a
Do you tell
variety
them
of
that though? Do you tell them that?
what?
Do you
I
tell them
mean,
that?
some people know it, and some people, I mean, if you don't look at who I've interviewed and how many times they've been on my show and don't realize that I have access, I
Mm.
mean, that's what's going on. So to some degree, I let a bunch of people know. I'm like, hey, when you pay $20, you're now not just paying $20 to be on my show. You know, you're paying it to be on a podcast. You're paying for access. You're paying for a lot of stuff. And I don't know if it was 100% clear, but that's sort of the attitude. And definitely for season 4, I'm going to put that right up front and say, look, when you support my project, you're buying access because access is just as important as anything else.
Yeah, like I'm very big on providing value. If you're saying like, hey, this is what this is going for, I'm providing not just an interview, but here's the value of the interview, here's the value of my network, here's the value of whatever. I personally don't think anybody can be mad for that. That's just you're providing value, and that's all I want to do is when I have interactions with people and other creators is provide value.
I mean, I
Whether
can tell you that you lucked out, and I'm going to be very honest. You lucked out because the interview before you, when I start sharing things out, is going to benefit you tremendously. Where Hart Fisher is going to draw a lot of attention once I start sharing it out, and he's the interview before you. And when it comes to the podcast, he's going to be the interview before you. He's the interview when I'm going to share it out, and that's a value thing. Now that was not planned. Legitimately, Hart Fisher came yesterday. But that's the other thing, too, that people don't understand is that when I have something like Ebas on, or I have a Dolan Mateague, or I have a JP Roth, and I'm dropping names for a reason, or a Tom Hutchinson, I put you right next to Tom. You now have credibility.
mm,
And that's the other thing. That's why you're paying because I get certain people, and I mean, I didn't announce who's on my show, next week, but I got a fucking power cast next week coming on. And that's the other thing too is that you're paying for credibility on a show because there's a lot of shows out there that don't have actually talented guests and don't have people who've been around in the industry for a while and don't have a conglomerate of it. I mean, this is episode 301. So that's
yeah.
kind of what's going on. And being right next to Hart Fisher, or even being 5 interviews away from Hart Fisher, adds some credibility.
Mhm.
It's also a
No,
lightning rod.
I get it. You're preaching to. I get it. But just like everything, some people it either doesn't work for them or they don't get it. It's yeah, it's just one of those situations where like people have their own perspective of what they want to do, and that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And obviously, the people are going to do what they're going to do. And some people are going to get it, and some people aren't. And you know what is what I say to people is I say, look, if you don't find value in what I'm doing, that's fine. It's the same thing with Mixem. If you are happy with your printer, guys, don't worry about it. You don't have to change your printer to please me.
Yeah.
But if you're unhappy or you're looking for a new printer or you want a better deal, then feel free to
Yeah.
use my code. Same thing with my BCW supplies code, same thing with my metal cards, same thing with my t-shirts. If you don't like what I do, you don't like my products, that's cool. Don't tell me to go fuck myself.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
just walk along. You can say no,
Yeah.
thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you don't like my show, you don't like the fact that I interviewed Hart Fisher, for instance, you don't have to listen to that interview. I don't care if that's your interview that you're thrilled for. because again, I make determinations on
Mhm.
who should be listened to and who I interview and all that stuff. Like I chose you, and I want the record to reflect that I sought
Thank you.
you out to
Thank
actually
you.
like the project.
Thank you. Yeah,
So, so
I appreciate that. And yeah, I get it, man. I get it. I totally get it.
exactly. Some people get it, some people don't, and you know that's just what it is. But we've been talking for almost 2 hours, which is something I
Yeah.
do, and I'm horrible. I don't keep track of time. It's the reason why I'm a long form interview. I'm like Joe Rogan, just a lot poorer than him. Um, so I'm like Joe Rogan. He just has more money.
There you go. There you go. You'll get there. You'll get there.
Don't worry. In about a week, I'm going to shave my head and get tattooed all
Sleeves.
I am committed to this role, everybody. I am committed. Okay? I'm committed. There's a
Nice.
dedication, you know, and then we're going to have t-shirts. It's going to be great.
Nice.
But I do want to give you a chance to self-promote yourself. So where can people back the Kickstarter? Where can people get you to print the next print at 4,000? Where can people get you to the next print at 6,000? I think there's a print at 6, it might be 7 now. Yeah, there's one at 6,000 and then 7,000 because I would like some extra prints when I back this book. So everybody get him to at least 4, and I'm gonna back your book after we're off the air. So I don't want people seeing your credit card information. I'm very. I need it to only get hacked once, guys. But anyway, I digress. Where can people find you? Find the Kickstarter, bug you on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook page, Snapchat, website, web store. Web store is a big one.
I mean, this is my girlfriend. Hey, babe, I'm on a podcast, so I'll talk to you. Bye. She's called like 3 times, so I forgot to tell her I was doing a podcast.
No
So
fucks given today. No fucks given today.
I'm trying to mitigate damages because I forgot to tell her. So basically, yeah, I'm at Royal Oaks Comics.com or at Royal Oaks Comics on IG, Twitter, TikTok. The Ballad of Valkyrie Sinclaire #1. You can even type in Valkyrie Sinclaire in Google; it'll give it to you. I've tried that on different computers, or just type it in a Kickstarter. We're chugging along. We're doing really good. What else do I want to say? Yeah. www.royaloakcomics.com. Yeah, it's doing good. That's where you can get like back issues of online stores and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just keep saying it. Obviously, this is my 300th and first interview that I've done with this show. Obviously, season 3, and I've been saying it. I'm gonna keep saying it. You gotta support indie comics, and what that means is back in Kickstarters. You throw a buck in there, $5, $100, $12, you pick up a cover. All of that is beyond helpful. So I really do recommend that people support because obviously Jamal's not Marvel, he's not DC, and every dollar goes into helping make the comic happen and make the next issue happen. And there's a lot of cool stuff going on. Obviously, the Cure cover is really cool, and even that other cover is awesome as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And it does help to get it across the finish line and the next issue. And it looks like an awesome book. And it's also an issue 1, so it's a good jumping on point. And then furthermore, let's say this is not your jam, for instance. One of the things is that you go on Jamal's web store, Royal Oak Comics, and I'm sure that you could find something that might be more suitable, or if you're into some other stuff that he's got out there, you should check that out as well, because even if you're not directly supporting the Kickstarter, if you buy a comic from his web store, it indirectly supports what he is doing, and that helps tremendously. Furthermore, sharing on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff is beyond helpful as well. Money's tight. I get it. Everybody's been there where they just don't have money in a particular month. And if you share it out on Twitter, Facebook, you never know who's watching. So that's helpful as well. And I do recommend that. Furthermore, about me, obviously, I got these metal cards up on eBay right now. I have another metal card that's a 50 limited. This is $10, guys. It's going up after Wizard World because BJ's up there in Philly. So after that, it's going to be about $12. I'm actually reducing them. It's cheaper to buy on eBay than on Kickstarter right now until April 10th. So if you're interested in this sweet metal card, which looks like this right here, just this is a lot more shiny. This is actually really cool shiny, like that shine. Then you can go buy that for $10 with shipping. Bring it up to 15. It will be up to $12 on April 11th. Also, you can buy my T-shirt, Redbubble. I'm a big Gundam fan, so go buy my T-shirt, guys. That'll all be taken care of. It'll be shipped nice, any color you want. Redbubble can do it all. Also, mix them 5% off. Andrew Davis, use that code on your first order or any other order. So that's something to do as well. Obviously, Jamaal uses Mix'em, so use that 5% off Andrew Davis. And on that note, I'm going to let you have the final word.
Thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun talking to you. I hope to come back. I apologize for the phone call.
But, it's all good. We're an informal show. I'm just busting your chops.
Okay, cool. No, it's a really great conversation, and thank you so much for having me. I've had a lot of fun.
Well, on that note, everybody, I believe that's a wrap right there.